Well, hello, everyone. I am thrilled today to be joined by a man who has his finger on the pulse of the sales talent market like few other people I know. Rich Diekmann is the founder of MDSI, and in my opinion, he is one of the most connected executive recruiters in the technology sales space. I've known Rich for more years than I care to admit, and he's someone that I have counted on for some of the most important milestones across my career. And what I really appreciate about Rich is that he doesn't just fill roles, he builds long-term relationships. And so I'm glad to introduce him to you today. Rich, it's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, JD. Good to be talking to you again. I love working with you over the years.
So, Rich, for those who haven't worked with you or with MDSI yet, tell us a little bit about your focus. What are the kinds of, talent that you're scouting for these days, and what's the temperature of the sales market in mid 2026?
So we focus primarily on sales. So account executives, mid-market account executives, VP of sales, CROs, mostly in the SaaS software space. AI obviously is the big buzzword now for the last couple of years, but cloud, data, whatever it is, and it's always on the sales side of it. So not marketing, not customer success, sometimes pre-sales people, but mostly just direct sales. And the pulse of the market, I mean, it's been pretty active. You can imagine with all these startups now coming out in AI, some of the bigger companies letting people go. It's been a very, very active market. A lot of mid-market growth, by the way, because of AI. So I think it's a good climate, but you have to have the right background.
Okay, I want to get into that a little bit. Earlier this month, I released a book about AI. It's the AI Handbook for Sales Professionals. And one of the biggest questions that I get from sales leaders today, and certainly candidates too, but leaders are asking, what skills am I even supposed to be hiring for? As AI is getting on everything, how important is that to have on your resume? What should people know about AI, and what does that play in the bigger hiring picture?
That's a good question. Again, I only do sales. So AI is important, but as far as on your resume, right now, that's kind of a buzzword that you kind of have to have. It's like every company that you look up on the internet or wherever you find your research on companies, they always start with AI. We're a leading AI vendor, and you know that they're not because AI just came out a couple of years ago and they're 35 years old. So AI is the buzzword. You have to kind of have it. So I say that in sales, you want to put that in your resume somewhere. So at least you're talking the right language, staying in the game. But from a sales perspective, hiring managers aren't looking for people who are proficient in AI from any kind of technical avenue. They're looking for people who really can use AI in their sales, kind of like what your book but I don't want to make a plug here, but the book tells you how to do that. And I actually used it myself. And that's why I'm so proficient now in AI for sales. And that's what they want. They want to see that you actually know how to use Claude or ChatGPT to help you do business development. Not that they want you writing your content using AI, but to actually bounce it off of AI and kind of use it to get better at selling. That's really what they care about on my side of the house.
Okay, makes sense. And I know you're really focused on sellers themselves.
That's right.
Often that might be, a BDR who's getting ready to graduate into their first sales role. When I talk to BDRs today, they're really worried about, is AI going to make that job go away? Are you seeing that in your talent pipeline yet, that the companies you're working with are, replacing their SDR team, or what's happening there?
No, not really at all. In fact, a lot of companies are adding BDRs. There's no way I think that BDRs are going to be replaced. BDRs usually lead to salespeople. So the BDR training, the BDR skill set is definitely transferable into enterprise or mid-market sales. It's a great training ground. I don't think it's going away, first of all. Second of all, yes, there are systems now that can be all automated using AI, but it only can take you through the initial parts of that, like sending out emails, maybe sending out LinkedIn automation, maybe sending a text. But once you get to the phone and have to speak to a live person, you're not going to lose the live person. And I think BDRs are critical because they get on the phone, they talk to people, and that's still extremely important no matter how much AI you hear about. Getting on the telephone, building relationships is still going to trump everything else in sales.
Yeah. I think about that relationship building. I remember being 23 years old. I was a sales engineer and wanted to become a quota carrier. And I asked a seller in Chicago one day, I was like, how do you find a job? Because this was before, the internet was huge. Like, how do you
Right.
find a job in your first sales role? And Cindy Bromelmeyer like whispered in my ear, you've got to call Rich Diekmann. Here's his phone number, right? So it seems to me that your career has always been about relationships and cultivating that network, which probably is very much what your sales candidates need too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you don't know how to speak to people and build a rapport, no matter what, you're not going to be successful. I don't care how many emails you send and how many links they click to get to this, to get to that. It's all about the human relationship in any kind of sales environment, even if it's transactional at some level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not every transaction, like an Amazon purchase. I mean, you don't really need a human for that. But anything where you're dealing with other people and affecting their lives and they're trying to make a decision, you do need you need humans like recruiters and BDRs.
Yeah. So you are the person that everyone turns to, when they need to find great sales talent, and then you have a bunch of talented individuals in your network. When you get them ready for that first call to meet one another, what are the things that you coach the candidate or the seller on to be effective in making that relationship work well?
So number one, it's preparation, and obviously with the AI, anybody can prep pretty easily. So there's no excuse not to have a good prep on the company you're going to be interviewing with, the person you're going to be interviewing with. I always tell people, look at their use cases, look at their value prop, make sure you understand the language of what they're speaking so that you can present yourself in the right way in terms of what they're looking for. So number one, prep the company and the space and the industry. Number two, more importantly, I tell people, understand yourself. Know what you've done, how you did what you did, why you're good at it, your successes, what were your percentages of quota, know them. Don't say, yeah, I've been here for 5 years. I make my quota most of the time. No. No. You want to say year one, I was 112%. Year two, I was 90%. Year three, I was 180%. You want to know your worth and your statistics to be able to articulate that to the hiring manager. So the second prep is really know you, be able to walk through deals that you did, understand how you did those deals. If you're a hunter and they're looking for a hunter, which in almost every case, that's what they want, people who know how to hunt for new business, and you say, I'm a great hunter, well, you better be able to talk about why. What do you do that makes you a great hunter? How do you hunt? Walk me through a cadence. So I spend so much time on prepping who you are, because if you can't articulate all those things, it's not going to work. The company's going to think that you don't, maybe you're not even telling the truth. So always know what you bring to the table. So those are the two areas of prep that I talk about the most. And then when you go on like a Zoom call or a LinkedIn like this, you should at least wear a collared shirt. I don't wear a collared shirt. I wear a t-shirt all the time. But if I'm talking to people like JD and whoever else is listening, put on a collared shirt. Act like you have some professionalism and that you care. I can't tell you how many people that if I forgot to tell them that, went in with a t-shirt and a baseball cap and it didn't go anywhere. The deal's dead. So just stuff like that. It's all that basic common sense that has nothing to do with AI except prepping for the research on the company.
Yeah, I was reading a LinkedIn post the other day about, how great it is that we're connected. But then they also talked about, a candidate who took the, FaceTime call from the treadmill in the gym. And I'm like, you're missing all of that basic kind of stuff. So, I love that. For myself personally, I've got my t-shirt on underneath. I just went for a run, but I have in my office all of these shirts that I can just, it's time to do a Zoom. Let's at least, you might look like Donald Duck down below and you have your pajama pants on, but the rest of it's cool.
Don't stand up. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that's on the candidate side. On the folks that are doing interviews, those are your clients too. What's the guidance you give them to, help them find a great candidate and convince the candidate to take the opportunity?
Well, I tell them to treat every interview that you're willing to have. If you've decided that you are going to talk to this person, whether I convinced you or you just looked at the resume and said yes, make sure that you're on that call to help sell them on why they should be interested in your opportunity. If you don't really give them that kind of prep, a lot of times the managers thinking it's a one-way street, because a lot of times it is. When you're the hiring company, you definitely are holding the cards because you've got the job that the person supposedly may want. So they take the attitude of, well, I'm going to screen them out. And to me, screening is a bad word. If you've already accepted the fact that you're going to talk to this candidate, screening is already over in a lot of ways, because I've screened them and you've screened their resume and agreed to talk to them. So now keep in mind, you should be selling them on why they should want to work at your company. Now, while you're doing that, you're also asking them questions, qualifying them, making sure you think they're a good fit. But don't just drill them with questions and try to stump the chump, kind of thing with, how much they know or don't know. Definitely want to keep it in your court, because if it turns out you actually really like this person, but all you did was grill them and make them feel uncomfortable or not wanted or not, like this is an interesting role, they're going to say no to you, because there's enough opportunities out there that they don't have to go to your job. So that's really the biggest thing I tell clients. There's not that much more prep for clients than that in my book when it comes to interviewing, at least the first interview. Once they get into a deal, then there's prep the whole time. Like, okay, we know that you want to hire this person. Here's what this person's thinking. There's their concerns. This is who else they're looking at. Let's think of a way to get them more interested in your company. How can we push them over the edge? That's different than prepping them for a first interview when they don't know if they're going to want to hire the person or not.
Yeah. And I imagine that, just because the candidate's the best for the role, a lot of your candidates will turn around and say, I don't want to work for you, because it is a two-way street.
Absolutely, all the time. But I always tell candidates, it's a two-way street for sure. But remember, at the moment, the company has the opening. Supposedly, you'd want to work for that company. Otherwise, you wouldn't be talking to them on an interview. So always seek to sell them on you before you worry about being sold on them. So now it's coached on both sides. So both people are selling each other to make sure that they're both, interested in the role. That's always what I say, because a lot of candidates would be, because they're in demand, some of them, they got great backgrounds, everybody wants to talk to them. So like, all right, I'll talk to them, but I don't know, I have a lot of concerns. And I'm like, okay, great, but don't go in there with that attitude. Don't start in with, well, how come you just let go of 14 people? And how come your sales rep didn't make his call? Like, do not do that at first. Yeah. First, establish why they should even want to answer that question. Because the worst thing is when the candidate is kicking tires or not going in there with the goal of selling themselves, they end up wanting the job. And the client's like, that guy was so negative. He didn't do any prep. He didn't try to sell. He didn't close. They're out. It's a two-way street, but you have to play it. It's a game too. It's theater.
You're the ultimate matchmaker here, and you've got to get both people really happy. And then at the end of the day, you can't control the decisions they make. That's got to be super frustrating.
There's zero control. The only thing we can do is give information and hope they take it and do it well. And that's it.
Yeah. And then I imagine, in coaching my own sellers, I always talk about time kills all deals. I imagine that's playing out for you in interview processes too, that it gets too elongated between steps.
Every day. That is the biggest complaint that not just me, but all my recruiter friends say. Time always kills deals. Since I started in 1985, time has been killing all deals, and it's never going to stop. And no matter how much you tell them, and these are sales VPs, they are in sales. No, wait, well, he's got to talk to me. Then he's going to talk to the hiring manager. Then he's going to talk to the SE manager. Then he's going to talk to the consulting manager. Then he's going to talk to a peer. And then 7 interviews over 6 weeks. The candidate's now getting bored, burnt out, and looking at something else. And the companies that come in with that 2 to 4 step cycle that they can manage in a week and a half or 2 weeks, they're getting the people. They're getting the right candidates. The ones that drag it on, you're only getting somebody who's willing to be dragged along for 8 weeks. That's the problem.
Maybe not the best talent.
Well, no, but they could be the best talent. It's just that they're so used to that. I don't know. It's just a bad thing to do, and companies don't want to listen. They still do it.
Yeah.
They're trying not to make a mistake, so they're afraid to make a decision. So they want 17 people's opinion before they actually say yes or no or whatever their reasons are. But it's just dumb.
I'd rather make no decision than the wrong decision.
Yeah, that's what happens.
So, as we think about AI, a lot of people are talking about, oh my gosh, we did a job posting. It's so easy for candidates to have AI blast their resume out to thousands of applicants, and they think that HR is going to have this AI system that's going to filter the best ones to the top. It's probably a little different when you work with an executive recruiter, but what's your take on the role of AI in that sort of pitching and screening and hiring process?
Well, you're right. It is very different when you're working with a recruiter. Like there's no AI involved. Nobody's screening anything. If you're working with me and I'm working directly with the company, they're getting the resume or the LinkedIn profile and my thoughts directly from me. So you don't have to worry about all the algorithm and all that. But a lot of the people, companies that don't use recruiters or positions outside of, let's say, sales, they're relying heavily on that. So AI is definitely hurting people because whatever it's looking for, if you don't have it exactly like that, you're just going to get rejected. Even if you could be the best person, it's whatever they put in it that they're screening for, and they don't really know what they're doing. So a lot of people get turned down for jobs, never even know it. They don't even get a rejection letter. They just nothing. They hear nothing, and that just sits there and sits there and sits there. And the hiring managers companies are getting screwed too, because they have no idea that their best person or two did apply, but they never saw them because of all the noise and all the crazy things that they use to screen people that isn't effective. So it's a terrible spot to be in. It's just creating. That's why if you look on LinkedIn, you do see people out of work for so long and complaining about the process, the candidate experience, terrible. The company has to be feeling it too, because they're not getting the talent that they used to get if they just directly work with a live person. So maybe in scale, you can't do that. Like a bigger company that's hiring, let's say, project managers, and they need 50 of them. So you're going to have to use some kind of tool. But like when we work with salespeople, they might be hiring 10 salespeople, but that's across the whole country. And it might report into 2 or 3 different managers. There's no reason to have an algorithm screen anything. You'll get screwed that way. So that's what I've noticed.
I was fortunate enough, I had, as I said, Cindy Brommelmeyer kind of whispered your name and slipped me your number. If I'm a BDR looking for my next, step up job, how do I start to build a relationship with someone like you?
So if you're a BDR looking to get into direct sales, whether it's mid-market or AE, I'm probably not going to be able to help you, honestly. If you want to stay a BDR as a stepping stone into sales, yes, I can help you. I don't do a lot of BDR work, but I do sometimes. The way I always tell my BDR candidates that are looking to move into a different role, do it at the company you're working for right now. So if you work for Databricks and you're a BDR there and you've been there for 1.5 years and you're doing well, but you really want to be an AE, work your way in there at your own company. Become noticed, do a great job. Obviously, you got to perform, make relationships, figure out a way to get yourself noticed when they do have that open headcount, so they don't go to the outside and they promote you, because you're lower risk really in a lot of cases than just getting another random person off the street. I can't really place people from BDR to sales very often, because think about the company that is recruiting. They're looking for an enterprise salesperson, and I'm giving them a 2-year BDR when I already have 10 other AEs that fit exactly what they want. It happens, but it's probably really rare. You have to build from within as a BDR to get into that role. And then once you're in, you can move on to other.
Okay. So what if I've done that? What if I have now grown up, I've got 1 year or 2 under my belt as a quota carrier, and now I want to find a new company? What's the best first step I should take? Should I try to find you? Should I be applying for jobs online? How do I get on your radar?
Yeah, absolutely. You could talk to me or any other recruiter. We still might not be able to place you. It depends on what your level of experience is. If you've only got 2 years of BDR and 2 years of outside sales or direct sales, you still might be too light for what we work on. At least my group. I'm sure there's, other groups that do different things, but we're looking for a little more experience, like that 5 to 10 years is sort of considered to us to be junior, not junior in a bad way, but that's like the starting point. So it depends on what your level of experience is. You can definitely talk to recruiters, but you might also have to go through the traditional route, like LinkedIn jobs. But I would say don't just randomly put your resume out there and think that it's a good idea. You can put them in the portal. Let's say you find a job on LinkedIn for XYZ company. Yeah, go ahead, put your resume in there. But while you're at it, Try to find who could be the hiring manager at that company. Go do a LinkedIn search, find out who works there, look at the titles. Look, this is Joe Smith. He's the regional sales manager in Chicago. Now what you do is you LinkedIn with him, you connect with him to invite him. And if he accepts, now you can DM him. If he doesn't accept, you can still send him an email. And I would say go directly to him. Hey, I have a 1.5 year experience. I'm a BDR, moved into AE. I fit your profile. I see you're looking for somebody. Let's have a conversation. And I can't imagine why that person would ignore you if he's seriously looking for somebody. You know what I mean? And you have the experience. But if you go into the portal, you're just like everybody else, waiting for somebody to hopefully notice you. That's the way I would do it if I was trying to get in myself.
It's all about authentic relationship building at the end of the day and getting out of the kind of easy to send email automated systems.
That's right. Absolutely. Don't rely on that.
Yeah, I just gave a TED talk about my garden back here. I had posted a photo of a burger that I grilled on an Instagram page, and I was like, "The Chicago Bell Garden is now proudly serving, this vegan meat patty." And someone's algorithm, just it got into their system, and now there's all these salespeople shipping me, industrial sized tubs of kimchi, and 120 pounds of steak rub came from a vendor in London because they just let the systems keep running. And it wasn't like, could you pick up the phone and ask me 2 questions about my restaurant and realize, oh, I'm not really who you think I am online.
Right. That's the epic fail, right? The AI,
the AI sales fail. Yeah, we're collecting them there. But I want to come back on that relationship side. I know when you were sending me out on interviews, you were always really good at knowing when the call was and about when it should be done. And I would just be hanging up the phone and my phone's ringing from Rich. How did it go? What did you talk about? And have you sent a thank you note yet?
Right.
Is that follow-up with a thank you note still important, or is the world moving too fast now?
No, it's exactly what you have to do. You still have to follow up, not the second you hang up, but somewhere in the next couple of hours to one day. Send a short and sweet thank you note, thanking them for their time. Maybe pulling out a couple of things that you took from the interview. Don't make it a 2-paragraph thing. Don't handle objections. Don't try to, negotiate or anything. Just thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I look forward to the next step kind of thing. Every single person should do that after each interview, even if you've interviewed 10 times.
Got it. Just like Mom said, like sit down, and it's probably not handwritten anymore, but definitely.
No, people do that. People do that. I'd have a hard time finding the address. Like nobody works anymore.
That's right.
So, but yeah, you have to always follow up.
I've also been reading a little bit about, and sometimes I think some of this is just hype on LinkedIn, but I've been reading a lot about boomerangs and people who have left companies and are now coming back, or managers who are trying to recruit back sellers that have left. What's your take on, is that good for the business, good for the candidate, or what's going on with that?
It really depends. It's definitely there. I wouldn't say it's more than usual. It's been always happening. Over the years, Oracle people would go back to Oracle, and Salesforce people going back to Salesforce. Sometimes it's because that is the most familiar, the most comfortable. We're both known quantities. It's now a new manager. It's a different job, a different time, a different company. It doesn't mean it's bad. Sometimes it's just that the person made a big mistake when he left a company and realized it after a year or 6 months, and he wanted to go she wanted to go right back to her old job. I don't think it's bad. It is there. It's not more or less than usual. And I don't think AI really has anything to do with that. That is more about relationships than probably any other finding a job. Because if they went back to the company they worked for, chances are good they went to somebody they knew who worked there still, who helped promote them in, and that type of thing. But it exists. But mostly in the bigger companies, I notice. You don't see too many people going from the startup, leaving for 3 years and going back to the startup.
Yeah,
it probably happens, but it's not as common as Salesforce, Oracle, and the big companies.
One last question, because I know we're getting close to the end of the time, but maybe on this, returning idea. So let's say I'm in a job and I decide to go do an interview process. I go get an offer from another company. Should I take that back to my existing company and use it as a negotiation tool?
No. Nope, don't do that. Don't ever do that. That's as bad as accepting a counteroffer and staying at a company. In fact, it's probably worse because now you've completely exposed what you were doing, that you were unhappy with them, that you went out there and you got, they're gonna take that so badly. They're gonna say, so wait, you think that you're gonna hold us hostage by going out there and looking at a new job? And now you want to, why would you even want to know what we're gonna give you if you were looking to leave? What's the difference? Just leave, right? I would never want somebody to do that. And I've had people that did that, and it doesn't end well. It's just not good. And again, it's as bad as resigning and then staying. That's like the dumbest thing. That works 1 out of 100 times, maybe 2 out of 100 times. That turns out okay. But almost every other time, within 6 months, definitely not a year, but between 6 months and a year, you're gone. And you're gone in different circumstances that you don't control. So no.
That's what I think the manager is making the counter offers too. I'm always saying, like, you're just desperate. Someone resigned and you're really desperate today, but you're going to be looking to replace them really quickly because the breach of trust.
Well, right. And think about it. If I'm trying to convince you to stay after you've actually resigned or went out and got another offer, it's because you're not happy there. And I'm also thinking, damn it, I can't afford to lose this person right now. I've got deals going on. I'm going on vacation. He's the third person to quit on me in the last month. I can't, what do I do? How do I keep him? And they'll say anything to get you to stop what you're doing, even if they can't deliver. And not that they're bad people. They're not liars per se, but they're desperate. They're like, shit, I could get fired if this guy leaves. I have to figure out a way to stop whatever he's doing and keep him here, even if it's temporary, till I get my ducks lined up, till I, now I can replace him. It's a no. Never do that. Don't resign. If you're not going to take the new job, don't resign. Just say to them, hey, listen, guys, I love working here, but I haven't had a raise in 3 years and my territory is kind of bad. Is there anything we could do to fix all that? I want to stay here. I want to be happy. Do that. Don't resign. You know what I mean?
And don't bring the threat of anyone else into the story. Just either I'm unhappy, you can make me happy or not, and it has nothing to do with what my other options are.
Exactly. And I only recommend doing that if you're one of those candidates that's like at the end of the whole cycle saying, yeah, I would stay if they give me this or that. Like, then I would say, well, first of all, that's terrible. You shouldn't go on to these interviews if you'd be willing to stay. Just ask them to give you all that. If they give you all that, then stay, Don't take interviews. Don't even go on an interview,
Rich, you always have the best advice. I am so grateful for the, many years of mentorship I've gotten from you and the last 30 minutes that we've gotten to share it with other folks. If people want to get in touch with you after this because they still have questions or are looking for advice, or maybe they're looking to hire or be hired, what's the best way for someone to be in touch with you?
Probably the easiest thing is just on LinkedIn, through my LinkedIn profile. It's just my name, Rich Diekmann. MDSI is my company. We have a website. We don't use it. We don't. I haven't looked at it in a couple of years. So your best bet is just to ping me on LinkedIn, connect or whatever. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Rich. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And thanks to everyone who joined us today. And I know they appreciate hearing from you today. Have a great morning.
Thank you, JD. Always a pleasure. Keep selling that book. It's a great book.
Thanks.
All right.